Are you ready to take your business to the next level and make the money you want so that you can create the impact you desire? Then you're in the right place. It's possible to run a successful business built around your life. Get ready for a little bit of tough love and a whole lot of strategy to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. If you're ready to get out of your own way and step into the role of CEO, then let's go. I'm Amy Traw, and this is the Motivated CEO Podcast. We are officially in a new year. And at the beginning of the year, it's so easy to feel excited and invigorated and to be so ready to conquer those big, audacious goals that we set for ourselves. But what happens when life starts to happen? The reality sinks in, and suddenly we're back to feeling overwhelmed. Well, today's guest is going to help us navigate this process. Christina Lecuyer is a mindset and performance coach. She helps high achievers deal with stress and overwhelm by reprogramming 1 to 2 things that will move the needle in their lives and businesses so that they make more money and have time to enjoy life more, which I love. So with that being said, Christina, welcome in. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks, girl. I appreciate me being here.
Absolutely. So tell us, let's just get right down to it. This whole idea of overwhelm. Why? Why do we start out with so much enthusiasm and then so quickly shut down because there's so much overwhelm? Is this all self-imposed? Is it because of culture and society? What's the root cause of that?
I think it's a combination of both for sure. But, obviously your podcast is motivated towards CEOs and entrepreneurs. And I think there's just a lot to do. I think at the end of the day, there's just a lot to do. And people who are probably type A, very driven, starting these businesses because it's something that they're passionate about. There's 8,000 things to do. And I think a lot of people, and, I've been a coach now for, it's like 5 or 6 years. And I will tell you that the number one thing I've seen with so many people is they get overwhelmed, analysis paralysis type of situation. And oftentimes they just quit. They tell themselves all the stories about why it's so easy for everyone else, why they can't do it, why, I guess they weren't cut out for it. And I think the main thing that I've seen in my years doing this is that a lot of people think, 3 to 5 steps down the road instead of thinking about the actual next step that needs to happen. And I think if we can figure out how to keep people, figuring out the next step and not step 3 or 33 or 153, I think that most people will be able to move forward. I think that unfortunately, definitely in the online space, I think a lot of people are always looking for those overnight successes, those quick fixes. And that is something that I 100% am not for. I just think that hard work, discipline, and doing the small things over and over again are truly the keys to success. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to sell that because it's not sexy, but that's the shit I believe in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you were like speaking my language, because it's easy to get caught up in the narrative that we're sold in the online space, thinking that, you can just think your way to $1 million and make 10K in your sleep. And yes, you can achieve any goal that you set out to, but you're right. So often we're focused on 3 to 5 steps down the road when we're forgetting, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What is that next thing that I can do? Because so often what we're doing is we're fighting for our limitations then more than for that goal that we want, that reality that we want to be living. And I think a lot of times that triggers us. And exactly as you said, the analysis paralysis really kicks in because we're so worried about all these hypothetical situations and what ifs that we forget to just keep taking the next step forward.
Yeah, just the small actions compounded matter so much, like it's the simplest little things that I think really truly move the needle, but it's all of those things that oftentimes a lot of people try to get past, and they try to, almost like downplay, like, oh, well, I don't have to work on that. I don't have to work on that. Like those things are simple and easy and I do them, but do you actually really, and do you do them so consistently that they're a part of who you are? A simple little example. I work with clients both holistically on life and business. I have a very hard time disassociating the two. I'm not not a life coach, I'm not a business coach, but I look at it as holistically because I think the two intertwine. And a lot of my clients make a lot of money, millions of dollars, and if they're miserable, I don't really give a shit. That's like literally that's not my billboard for success. But also too, we do have to make money, and I think that if we can look at a person's life holistically, like what are you doing on a daily that like not only brings you joy, but brings you income, and you have some systems and processes in place and things that you do to take care of yourself. And we're looking at your life and your business holistically. We can usually pinpoint one or two things that are a little bit off that are either holding us back or not allowing us to move the needle as fast as we can. And so I think that being able to look at it from the overhead perspective is the thing that I do best with my clients. And oftentimes it's like sometimes the simplest little things that really truly do move the needle to success.
Exactly. And having someone on our side to call us out. Because you're right. It's those small little actions every single day. If we're making excuses over and over and over, yeah, we're not going to see the results that we want. And that's a hard truth, but it's a reality that we all face. And one of my favorite quotes is, you have to be willing to do what most people won't to get the results that most people don't. And like you said, it's the boring, it's the being disciplined over and over and over with those small little tasks. Now, what advice can you give the business owner that's like, yeah, but it's hard. Like, I just, life is happening. Life is lifing. What do you say when you hear that from a client?
Yeah, I mean, guess what? It's the reality, right? There's no one that's going to escape the reality of life. There's no one that's going to escape a hard day in your personal life. There's no one that's going to escape a hard day in your business life. I mean, that's truly what makes people successful, right? Like, how fast can you get through that? I remember I had one of my good girlfriends speak in one of I don't do group coaching anymore, but I used to years ago. And one of my girlfriends, she owns six or seven retail boutique locations at the time. And she's like, it's not if something's going to happen. It's a matter of it will 100% happen. Bad things happen every day in business. It's how quickly you can get over them, how you don't make it mean something, how, fast can you understand that there's a problem and be able to solve it. And it's not if it's going to happen, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And I think that we can look at that through everything in life. None of us are going to escape a bad day. None of us are going to escape a hard situation, but it's how fast you can get through it, who you are in the process, and, how much resiliency you do have in order to keep going. I mean, that's just really what it's about. And I think, unfortunately, we don't talk enough about that. We try to make it seem like it's always going to be roses and that everyone has their shit together. And that's just not the case.
Right. I don't know anybody that does. And I mean, if you are like scrolling and looking on Instagram and thinking everybody else has it figured out, no one has this figured out because the market is changing, the economy is changing, everything's constantly changing. But when we can lean into that change and use it as opportunities, and like you said too, not create these stories about it. And that's why I love leveraging data to drive decisions because it takes some of that out. Your results are just data. If they're data you like, do more of it. If it's not what you like, all right, that allows us to see opportunities right in front of our eyes. But you're right. We're thinking that we're exempt from life, that it should just be so easy. But yeah, that's pretty much the one thing in life that is guaranteed, that we are going to fall down over and over and over. But it builds that resilience. It helps us learn and grow because think about when you're a kid riding a bike, you fall down, you have to get back up and keep trying over and over and over, and you get better each time. So you bounce back faster.
Yeah, you know what works and what doesn't work. You know which path you enjoy the most. I was just on a client call right before we got on this, and a client of mine, he's looking to buy a new business, and I was like, "Hey, before we do anything, like we know what you're best at. Number one, no question, you're a salesperson. So why in the world would we try to do all of the things, the systems and processes that you freaking hate? That is not your area of expertise. We're going to hire that out. We're going to, have someone who dies, like loves that. I always think about my husband owns a multiple of companies, but his CEO, who's in charge of, all of their LLCs, 50 of them or whatever, he dies for data. He loves numbers. I mean, there's people that specialize in a certain area. Know what you're really good at and try to do that. And the thing that you enjoy and the thing that you're really good at, usually that's your wheelhouse. And if you can figure out, especially in business, how to, not a lot of solo entrepreneurs who you're speaking to in the beginning, you do have to do all of the things until you can slowly hire, a virtual assistant and then an assistant and then team and all of those things that come and grow with, growing a business. But really, once you get to a certain level, it's like you should be doing the thing that I always look at it is what brings me the most joy and what brings me the most income. I know what I do the best in my business. I know what brings me the most joy in my business. And I am the first person to say I pay for everything. I delegate everything, whether it be in my personal life or my business. I don't fold my laundry. I don't clean my house. I will never do anything outside. And I am more than proud of that. It's just, that's how I run my life. If it doesn't bring me joy and it doesn't bring me income, I don't do it. And I think that a lot of people are, unfortunately, perhaps they're told that that's wrong, or we think we need to do everything, or perhaps you don't have the finances in the beginning. I mean, barter it out. I don't care what you do, but the faster that you can do the things that bring you joy and bring you the income, chances are the happier and more successful your company will be.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important point for entrepreneurs to have that self awareness of knowing what exactly those things that bring you joy are. Because when you're trying to do everything, you don't accomplish anything at all. And that can be scary. It can be very scary to make those investments, and to outsource. But when you are intentional about doing those things in a strategic manner, it fills you with joy. When you're filled with joy, you can't be burnt out as quickly, as easily, because you're staying in your zone of genius, just like you said. And it's so important, but it's hard. It can be hard to give up that control and allow someone else to run an aspect of your business. But in order to scale your business, that is something you're going to have to do at some point. How can someone get over that need to control, that fear of relinquishing some of their control to someone else to help them with these tasks that don't bring them joy?
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at your brand, the CEO method is your book and the CEO podcast is behind you. I think that that's it. You're a CEO and you have to treat yourself like one. I think that a lot of times people are very nervous to invest in themselves. And I look at it all the time as, is this a hobby or are you the CEO of this business? And I think that's one of the greatest mindset shifts that you can have in the beginning of starting your business is to really look at yourself as a CEO, whether you're bringing in, $30,000 a year or $3 million a year. Really looking at yourself as a CEO and delegating the decisions that you're making as a CEO, I think is very, very helpful. Oftentimes I tell my clients, I always use this silly analogy, and I'm not even a Target shopper, but Target is like a nationally known thing, right? But I always, people are afraid to raise their prices or people are afraid to, do all of the things. And I always say to them, I said, do you think Target is afraid to charge you what the product is worth? Do you think Target would allow you to walk out of the store without paying? Do you think Target would allow you to, break a contract? Do you think Target and I always kind of go back to that silly analogy, but I think it's really helpful for you to be able to say, like, the next time you're thinking about something or you're having a hard decision or whatever it is, say, what would the CEO of Target do? And I think if you can look at yourself as that and truly value yourself as the CEO, I often say sometimes too, and maybe this is a bit harsh, if you follow me over on Be Christina on Instagram or listen to my Decide It's Your Turn podcast, I'll tell you, I'm God and I are tight. I do cuss like a sailor. I'm very, I can come off as very harsh, but I am so passionate about what I do. And it literally pisses me off more than anything when people, don't value themselves or don't look at themselves as a real business. If you're not willing to spend $1,000 in your business, it's not a real business. And I know, and I mean that so kindly, but it's not a real business and you're not really a CEO. You have to operate as one. And the faster that you can learn that in the beginning of your business, the easier your business will be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Preach it, girlfriend. Seriously. It comes down to treating your business like a business. Because if you're going to treat it like a side hustle, you're going to get side hustle results. But when you truly step into that role of CEO and act as such, what would that CEO do? How am I showing up? How am I making decisions? Am I truly acting like the CEO or am I just holding back? Am I just
Well,
living in fear, right?
yeah, absolutely. For years I've branded myself on confidence. I do believe confidence is one of the greatest tools that you can possibly have. Would I take a person who is confident or would I take a person who has a Harvard degree without confidence? Zero freaking chance I'm going with the Harvard degree. I'm going with the person who has the confidence, who has the self-trust, is going to show up and figure it out no matter what. And confidence to me is like one of the most powerful tools on the planet. And you've got to learn how to be confident in your decision making. My brand is called Decide It's Your Turn. And the funny thing about that is, I truly believe there's no wrong decision, but you have to make a decision. And that is a confidence thing. That is learning how to make a decision. I'm not telling you they're always going to be the right decisions, but you have to learn how to make a decision. You have to be confident in what you're doing, who you are, what you're selling, whatever it is. That confidence muscle will take you further in most anything, business and life. I would pick that person over everyone else 9 times out of 10.
Same. Oh my gosh, absolutely the same. Because I still remember back when I was first starting my business, I had a life coach and I love her to death. We are still friends to this day. And she called me out once. She's like, not making a decision is making a decision. And that has stuck with me to this day. And I live by that because you're right. We do want to be buying from the person that is confident they can deliver the results that they're selling. If you have someone that's just kind of timid, like, oh, maybe I can help you do this. No, that's not going to create safety psychologically. No, we want the person that's like, no, I'm going to get you results. I'm going to hold you accountable. You put in the work, do the thing, we'll get the results. And I love how you said there is no wrong decision. And I think that's really key to going back to the overwhelm, to getting out of the overwhelm, is just getting into action. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did a podcast. It went, pretty viral at the time that we recorded it, maybe a year and a half ago. And the gentleman who I was on the podcast with, he said, sitting on the fence, you get splinters in your ass. And I thought that that was so good. And it's so true. Like indecision is still a decision. And if you are constantly doubting yourself, constantly second guessing, you are going to struggle, both personally and professionally. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of your own company, if you're working for someone else, if you're struggling in your relationships, whatever it is. If you do not have the ability to make a decision and get on with it, you don't have the ability to trust yourself to that decision. I've made a ton of wrong decisions, but I 100% trust myself to show up to that decision no matter what. And that builds confidence. And also, I've had a lot of success because of that. And I'm very proud of that skill. And I think that that's something that I'm super passionate about, is being able to help someone learn how to trust themselves, make a decision, show up to the next decision, start showing up as a CEO in your business. And it's very rare that you can do that without confidence and knowing how to make a decision.
Yeah. Do you feel like sometimes you have to do the thing before you truly feel ready to build that self trust?
Yeah, I think confidence is like a muscle. Like the more you use it, the stronger it will become. Until you do anything, you're not going to be that great at it. I come from a sports background. I played professional golf for years. I hosted corporate and charity golf events, played golf with executives and, famous people for my whole life. And one thing that I know to be true is that even like someone like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or Derek Jeter or whoever it is, they're not going to be super confident, going from football to hockey or going from baseball to football. The confidence comes by doing it. And I think that that's one of the things that we have to remember is you're not always going to be 100% confident, but you have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to have the hard conversation. In business, I was just on a call with a client just the other day, and, first time she's really had 3 or 4 employees, and she's like, gosh, I hate having, like, I'm nervous about firing someone or having hard conversations. And I said, guess what? We'll do it 100 times. And I guarantee you by the 100th time, you're going to be better at it.
Yeah.
It's honestly that simple. But I think, unfortunately, again, like I said, I think a lot of people are trying to skip over steps. They're trying to believe that it should come easily or that it works for someone else. I've a simple, personal example is, people always say, oh, you're so motivated. Like you work out every day. I'm like, I'm not motivated. I've become the person who works out every day. I've walked every single solitary day, maybe 20 days in like 4 years. I have never, like, I've really very rarely missed a day. And it's not that I'm excited to do it every day. It's not that I'm motivated to do it every day. I've just become the person who just does it. I show up on social media for the last 7 years. I did 4 years posting on my stories without ever missing one day. It's not that I have this special power that no one else has. I'm just consistent to a fault. And I'm like consistent until like I just know that I know that I know that I know. I've become the person to do it. And how you get to 4 years without missing a day is you start at day one. And most people want to skip day one to, 3,000. But instead, you have to just do it every single day. And that builds confidence. That is the goal, and everyone's just trying to skip over that.
Right. That's the real secret. And that's
Yeah.
what, like you said, nobody's talking about
Yeah.
because we want to be on chapter 20, but we haven't gone through chapters 1 to 19 yet. We haven't built those skills. We haven't stretched ourselves outside of our comfort zones and been willing to fail. Because, I mean, really, is there such a thing as failure? Because it's a story. It's a story. It's just information. You're really not failing. You're just gathering information on what didn't work. But it all comes
Yeah.
down to discipline, right?
Yeah, and I think how many people wish, let's use a speaking engagement. I remember when I first started doing speaking engagements, gosh, I was just, praying for that first one at 100 and the first one at 1,000 and whatever it was. Well, had I got the first speaking engagement to 1,000 of people my very first year of speaking, it probably would not have gone well. I needed those 2 or 3 or 4 years or whatever it took. And sometimes it's longer for certain things, to get to the place that, oh yeah, now I'm prepared for the season that I'm in. And I think oftentimes we're constantly thinking that like when we get to that thing, we'll be happy. And newsflash, happiness is a now situation. Like there is nothing coming for you. It's like that person who's like, when I make $1 million, when I get married, when I have my kid, when I lose the 50 pounds or whatever, that's a really good example. I recently had a client who got on Ozempic, and, each person to their own. I have no feelings on it, but she got on the Ozempic and she lost the 70 pounds. And she said, holy shit, my whole entire life, I've been thinking I was going to be happy once I lost the 70 pounds. And newsflash, I'm not happy. And I feel like it gave her that fast forward, like in a quick amount of time. I don't know how long it took her to lose it, let's say 6 months, but it's like she didn't do the work to get to the place that she's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually happy at this spot. And I think oftentimes people think like the $1 million or losing the weight or the relationship, if you're not happy in the now, whatever the result may be. And I'm very blessed to say that I've had a lot of the results that a lot of people think that they're going to be happy with. And happiness is a now job. It's an inside job. It is an every single day decision. And it is absolutely irrelevant if you're making $1 million or if you've lost the weight or whatever it is. And I just think that sometimes we all think that that's what it's going to bring, and it's just not.
Yeah, what an important and powerful reminder because really the joy is in the journey. And we don't know when this journey is going to end for any of us. We like to think that the future is guaranteed, but the only thing that's guaranteed is the here and now. So if we can embrace that and be happy right now. And I find too, when I get into those stages where I'm like, things aren't happening quick enough for me, what I'll do is I'll reflect back. on the journey of how far I've come. And all of those things that I thought were major stumbling blocks at the time, those taught me so much. Those gave me lessons that helped me be resilient, that helped me realize, wow, I'm the person I am now because of the hardships along the way. It wasn't all of the times that I celebrated those successes. Yeah, those were awesome. But it was really when I fell down and got back up that, wow, I'm pretty damn proud of myself.
Yeah, I did a post just, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I do a quote like every Sunday, and I said something along those lines, which was, the things that you are bitching about today, chances are those are the things that you were praying for 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like we all sometimes forget that the things that we're struggling with right now. I remind my husband of this. My husband has hundreds of employees, and we've been together 22 years or something along those lines. And I remember there was times in life where he'd be praying to have 100 employees, let alone, 200 employees or whatever it is. And now we're complaining about having them. And it's just, sometimes it's nice to be able to look back and be like, wow, the hard moments today are the things that I prayed for just a few years ago.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Christina, this was such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being such a bright light to everyone in the online space and the business world and just life in general. We all need reminded of these things every single day because it's hard. The journey as a solopreneur is hard, but you can do it. You can achieve the success that you desire, but it all comes back to being disciplined. Make sure you hop on Christina's text list. We will link it up below in the show notes. And until next time, stop dreaming and start taking messy action. You got this.
Are you loving what you're hearing? Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode.